Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is October 13th, 2025. And of course, the dominant story in the news today, 20 of the 48 remaining hostages, 20 hostages that were still alive of the missing 48 were returned to Israel today. And of course, in the U.S., the biggest ally of Israel, it's Christopher Columbus Day, who's seen by many as the invader. You know, the European guy who went into a predominantly brown place and conquered. And, you know, those Ashkenazis from Eastern Europe, that's who mostly lives in Israel now. And, you know, they're there thanks to the Nazis themselves. And of course, the closest thing to Nazis is, oh, never mind, you can't say it, it's hate speech. But everybody knows how to finish that sentence after witnessing 2+ years of bombing hospitals and blowing up women and children. And if you dared to say anything about it, you were a bad person, because that is the age we live in, and people are so spineless. They don't want to get labeled one of those how do you spell it? Semitic. Anyway, which in a way doesn't even really make sense, because if you actually look what Semitic is, it's like browner people that are actually from that region, not from Khazaria. But yeah, you know, it's October 13th. Doesn't that date remind you of a number sequence that I've taught about 10 bazillion times? 1013. You know, in numerology, a zero is a null value, so the only numbers that really remain are 113. You know that infamous verse in the Talmud, Bava Kama 113a. What does it say? If you don't know what it says, welcome to the channel. I've written books about it, and like I said, I've probably covered it a bazillion times. And yeah, that is a real number, because it's exactly how many times I've covered it. Well, we'll get to that again. But if you're new here, you're probably on the only channel that told you almost to the day what day this fiasco would begin, the exact day that Netanyahu came back. Netanyahu came back into power December 29, 2022, by the numbers. And I said, just wait. I said, we're coming up on that infamous year of Israel turning 75. We'd been saying for over a decade that when Israel turned 75, why it was going to be bad news for the world. And notice Netanyahu's 75 right now, as he gets back his supposed hostages. But yeah, the day he came back, I explained why there'd be a major war that would start in Israel right around the time Yale turned 322 years old. And Yale's very important to all this as well, because look, it was Yale's birthday this year, October 9th, that this hostage deal was agreed to. It's like, oh, look, Yale again. And why does Yale matter? Because of that very powerful secret society that's there called Skull and Bones, which gets its symbolism from the Templars, who waged the Crusades, who stayed at Al-Aqsa Mosque and used it as their headquarters and called it Solomon's Temple. And that's why modern Israel is where it is today. Again, when they were drawing up Israel back in the 40s, they debated on putting it in Africa or here or there, and they chose where it is today because of the history of the Templars, which goes right there with Skull and Bones at Yale. But yeah, this whole thing is just one big sick, twisted joke. And let's go through it number by number. Let's go through it number by number. Again, when we're talking about the you-know-who people, again, they're into this whole letter and number thing. And, you know, these people are big in media. So it got me looking at the whole letter and number thing. I just saw way too many number rituals in the news. And notice today, 737 days later. And, you know, any rabbi would say, oh, yeah, no. If you guys don't know, 73 and 37 are like these holy numbers in the study of letters and numbers in the Hebrew Gematria of the Old Testament. The first verse of the Old Testament Hebrew has this 73, 37, 737 connection. And as you can see here, again, if you're new to Gematria, one number doesn't just mean one thing, but there's this common association with 737 to the Hebrew-speaking people, and it means he said to his world, it is enough. So today is enough. The hostages are returned. And this gets interesting because, of course, Trump's ugly mug is in the Illuminati card game on the enough is enough card. And, notice they gave you two 48s today in the story. They said the hostages that were returned were between ages 21 and 48. And they also said that there were 48 remaining hostages, but 28 have passed. Only 20 are alive. So the 20 that were alive were between ages 21 and 48, but they had to give you two 48s in the story today. And Illuminati equals 48, and so does Donald Trump, and so does Hollywood. And of course, that's where he comes from, because that's what they put in the Oval Office, actors. As we know, Trump is just a puppet, an orange, fat, ugly puppet who just reads off the script every day. There's not a single thing that anybody in that Oval Office does that comes from the actual actor who's installed there. And yes, installed there, not voted in. None of you guys are voting for any of these people. You might be going and voting for them, but your vote doesn't make any difference. It's all predetermined, just like we told you 4 years before they reinstalled the chump that he was going to be reinstalled as the new fat Grover Cleveland in 2024 at age 78, because, of course, Cleveland equals 78 and a whole lot more. 78 cards in the tarot deck. All this occult crap is so important to these people. The highest cards in the tarot deck are Trump cards. Trump's back at 78. But yeah, again, Israel was credited in 48. And remember, when it comes to the Illuminati, which yes, is a real thing in history and in the current moment, some people say, oh yeah, it was a real thing, but Adam Weishaupt, he became a drunk and a gambling addict and it all fell apart. It's like, okay. So he founded this thing with all these powerful families, and because he became a drunk and a gambling addict, the whole thing just collapsed? Okay. Yeah, if you believe that, you're a moron. Again, the Illuminati was founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, and like I explained the day the war broke out, it was one massive Jesuit ritual. Again, the Illuminati might as well be the Jesuits. The Illuminati was created in the time of the Jesuit suppression, May 1st, 1776, just before the American Revolution. The Illuminati's been here the whole time. And that's why George Washington wrote those letters about his concerns about the Illuminati infiltrating Freemasonry and things like governments. And so many people in Freemasonry were in positions of power in government. Don't forget, The Apprentice is the first degree of Freemasonry, or all the rituals with Trump. And Freemasonry is only for men, and Trump can only beat women in elections, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, are we following so far how this 737 fits into this enough phrase in Hebrew, and how Trump's face is on the enough is enough card? And by the way, enough is enough equals 78, like Trump came back into office at age 78. But all the 48 stuff too, are we following? I hope so. Ages 48 to 21, add those numbers together. 21 plus 48, 69. Again, if you're new here, this gematria thing, it's based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards. Illuminati's 48 and 69. There's a Hebrew system. There's an Aramaic system. There's a Greek system. And yes, there's definitely an English system. And it's possible other alphabets of the world also have a system behind it. But remember, the Catholic Church is responsible for the calendar system that says this happened October 13th, 2025. And they're also responsible for standardizing the English alphabet at the same moment they rolled out the Gregorian calendar in tribute to the Pope. And yeah, the rest is history. That's why we're doing this on Columbus Day. The who was paid for by the Catholic Church to sail the Atlantic, where he landed in a place where he didn't know where he was. And he said, these people must be Indians. I just, you guys, I mean, I guess I've just been going nuts since probably about second grade, when all of a sudden it started dawning on me, like, why are they teaching us about this guy who discovered a place where people already lived, and how could he possibly be the discoverer? Nobody questions anything that's so obvious. They just swallow all the bullshit fed to them every day. But by the way, and speaking of bullshit, I just got to remind you guys, if you're new here, there are 4 base ciphers of the English language. You want to know all 4. There's a lot I could say about the name Benjamin Netanyahu. But you see this 282? That's how many days it was since he'd returned to power, from December 29, 2022, when he came back, to when October 7th happened. A story that made 0 sense, in the heavily fortified border where the whole country's covered in IDF. People were out having a rager party at what time in the morning? Like, since when? Since when is there a big concert in the morning? That doesn't happen. But none of the story made any sense. Not a single detail in the story made any sense. And Yeah, it happened 282 days after he came back from power. We'll get to why it matters that today's 1,019 days since he came back, but there it was, 282. And what was the first hostage? Shem, the girl that had like the ocean blue eyes. Let me see. Mia Shem, was that it? The people of Shem. Yeah, just to remind you this. You remember how they were putting out the? Did I not put the images of her? Here, I'll find another post on her. You'll remember her face if you. Oh, here we go. Mia Shem. Mia Shem. She was the first hostage they put out. She had those like ocean blue eyes. And you see how Mia Shem equals 71, 35, 145, 46, like Catholic in the four base ciphers. Again, this is who runs the world. That's why there's 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament and 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament. And what day was Israel created? On 14/5. Old Testament's the Jewish section. The world wars instigated by the church. Church turns a blind eye to small mustache man. Ashkenazis, Nazis. Just put it all together. It's all in your face. But anyway, next thing you know, David Ben-Gurion, 145, is the first prime minister after the nation's created on 14/5 in the year 48. Anyway, this Mia Shem. Don't forget that the war began on Putin's 71st birthday, 71 days before the Pope's birthday, who was Pope Francis at the time, the first Jesuit. And there were so many there. I mean, again, we've done a million posts on all this. There's so many layers to this, but the whole point is it's just all been crap by the numbers. Notice how Netanyahu's birthday is 10/21 and Genesis 10:21 refers to relative ages of Shem and his brother Japheth. Shem, Mia Shem, the first hostage. I mean, okay. Coming back. About this whole thing just being a massive Jesuit ritual, like explained day one, the day the news broke. Notice that it's 266 days since the Trump administration took office, because supposedly Trump is the one who brought this all together. It was all part of Trump's master plan. Remember, he said he was going to end it on day one, but instead he had to go to day 266. The Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, is 266, and Pope Francis was the 266th Pope, and that's why when he spoke in D.C. on September 25th, 2015, it was the 266th day of the year. And, okay, it is 266 days after he took office that this happens. You could also say it's his 267th day of being in office, and we're in the time of the 267th Pope who went to school in Philadelphia, the 267 area code. And don't forget who told you before we had the first American Pope that it was going to have something to do with Philadelphia. It sure did. Don't forget how they synced up the Villanova shooting hoax with the Villanova Provost, a.k.a. Pope Leo XIV. You know, there's something to Schilt retiring today in the MLB as well, because we've read it so perfectly. The Padres Cubs series. We had the Cubs to win game 1, Padres game 2, Cubs game 3, so that Schilt would fall to 9-14 in the postseason for his manager record. Like the Pope's birthday is 9/14. Padres means fathers. Again, when you know what's really going on, you can take advantage of the script. But about this Isus Hominum Salvator, don't forget the war began on the day, leaving 85 days left in the year. Isus Hominum Salvator, 85. And also, interestingly enough, since when the war began, it was perfectly coordinated with Pope Francis. Notice, remember, he died on Rome's birthday. Today's 175 days since he died. Also, Rome's birthday, Pope Francis, 175. I don't think that's an accident. Nope, I don't think that's an accident. And let me see here. What happened to the rest of my post? Just to scan over this was the initial post, day one that the war began, just to scan over some of these things. October 7th, ripe day for military action. Military's 107-44, like Israel, Netanyahu, and Zion are 44. And remember, almost every big Israel story you've seen in the last couple of years has taken place on a date with 44 numerology, including just this recent October 9th, where they agreed to this hostage deal when Israel bombed Iran. That was on a 44 date numerology. That was on June 13th, the anniversary of Netanyahu stepping down from power, et cetera, et cetera. It's just super redundant patterns. Trump, the 44th person to be the U.S. president. It's because Grover Cleveland split term. I always remind you about when Netanyahu was supposedly threatening Obama, number 44, with 44 seconds of silence. Obama left office, giving Israel $38 billion, JEW 38, Washington, D.C. on the 38th parallel. It's all military money, like Pentagon's 38, like Trump last week said he's going to give the military a 3.8% raise. Not 4, 3.8. Another thing that's interesting is yesterday was Aleister Crowley's birthday anniversary, who worshiped the number 93. I've always pointed out that he died shortly after the United Nations drew up Israel on September 3rd. Not September 3rd, September 30th. Or God, is it? Now I'm tripping. Is it? It's either September 3rd or September 30th that the boundaries for Israel were drawn up. Both dates have the 9-3 sequence. Again, Aleister Crowley worshiped number 93. For the second year in a row, the NFL, the week of Aleister Crowley's birthday, is making sure that their last game of the night, or for the week, is the 93rd game of the season. Notice yesterday was his birthday. You had the London game. Aleister Crowley wrote about the pale horse. The Broncos win in London over the Jets. And it was also John Denver's death anniversary. John Denver, who died in a plane crash. Denver beats the Jets. I'm telling you. And for people who don't get it, the Kabal runs all these things, you guys, and they're paying tribute to their history over and over. So if you think John Denver was just an accident, the Illuminati's laughing at you. They love to kill their entertainers and musicians. Yeah, the 113 thing, you guys. Today, October 13th, 1013. 0 doesn't count in numerology, so it's pretty much like 113. Baba Kama, 113A. You-know-whos may use lies to circumvent a Gentile. And again, to be fair to the you-know-whos, they say what this verse is about is being a you-know-who all throughout history, opened the door to being persecuted, murdered for their religious beliefs. So in those kind of situations, it was okay to lie to save their own life. The problem with religious scripture and rules like this is people learn to bend the rules a little bit. Next thing you know, you got that, that type that's like, well, you know what? If we don't lie to them about everything, they might come back and try to kill us again. So maybe we'll just dominate the whole world and control their little Gentile minds by lying to them every day and have them in a total state of mind control where they don't know up from down. Okay. Anyway, 113, mainstream, dishonest, perverted, not true, not honest, not factual, disinfo, politics, perjury, fiction, bullshit, infidelity, divorce. Do you see where all these numbers are connected to, or all these words are connected to a form of dishonesty? Usually divorce, more often than not, your vows were till death do us part. But then next thing you know, it's like, well, there was this really cute girl in the office and I couldn't control my pecker. And then next thing you know, I guess it was like sort of like the death of our marriage. Anyway, sinister, erroneous. They're all 113. Green screen, George Lucas, the master of it. They use the green screen for deception. Who's ever seen that footage from the early 90s, the first Gulf War, where CNN's pretending like they're out there on the battlefield, but really they're just in Atlanta in front of the green screen. George Lucas, his first film, THX 1138, about a future police state. We're almost there. If you don't know about Piltdown Man, and again, this is the beauty of the base ciphers. Piltdown Man, if you don't know about it, for all you big evolution people, it was the first proof of evolution. It came out of the UK, just like the UK used to control Israel and big history. Anyway, Piltdown was the first proof of evolution, and it was also used as proof of evolution for 41 years. For 41 years, look it up. 41 years it was used as proof of evolution and why the white man was the most superior race, because the most evolved man came from the UK, from Piltdown, until they said, oh, we just made it up. We just made it up. Yeah, the whole O.J. Simpson, poor OJ. Had to go through all that theater, be hated by so many, and they get killed and announced dead as the master's tee-off in a tribute to Ephesians 6, verses 5 through 9. Slaves, obey your masters. OJ dead at 76, right after Super Bowl 59. It's cold how these people use the Bible verses. Right after Naked Gun 33 1/3, it all goes down with OJ and Ron Goldman. Anyway, what they did to Princess Diana, that was a big 113. The whole National Basketball Association, nothing but actors, two of the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan and Kobe. They recently took out Kobe in somewhat of a 113 ritual, as we've covered. It's covered in my last book, Number Games. Even Kobe's retirement poem, the last team he played, Utah Jazz. And remember, the first high school guy to the NBA was Moses Malone, who died by the numbers, synced with Kobe's last game. Died 213 days before Kobe's last game, playing for the 2-1-3 LA. LA that wins the Super Bowl most recently on 2-1-3. Got to know your area codes. Yesterday, the Jaguars stayed on 206 regular season wins versus the 206, and they were down 20-6. How many times have you seen that this year already with the Seattle season? 20-6 scores for the 206. These people are like, don't worry, the Goyim will never catch on. They're bad with numbers. They hate math. Yeah, I love people ask, why would they do it this way? For about 5,000 different reasons, including they know that you guys hate numbers, got no attention span, no interest in learning. By the way, for the person who did the review video that said my channel would be a lot more successful if I wasn't dripping with contempt for humanity, dude, fuck off. Of course I got contempt for humanity. Are you fucking kidding me? Grow up and have an IQ above room temperature, you will have contempt for humanity too. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. Jesus. Yeah, and then again, about zeros not counting from Netanyahu coming back. Good thing we have those international courts. What's the point of that? How much money are we contributing to that shit that does absolutely nothing? Every time they declare someone a war criminal, nothing happens. It's George W. Bush, it's Netanyahu. What is the point of all this crap? What actually, you know what I think the point of the crap is? To make the people who could actually do something about it sit back and do nothing because they think some authority is going to solve the problems. No, the authorities just going to keep lying to you and screwing you in the ass and charging you more and more in taxes and lying to you more and more fees and more fear mongering and more needless war. That's what will continue to happen until there's an uprising from humanity, which looking around, I don't think it's going to happen. So it'll look like they'd kill over if they had to run 10 feet. But yeah, it's pretty much just a tribute to the old flag there. 1019 is pretty much the same thing as 119. Netanyahu's back, whole ritual, October 7th, opens the door for his it's not a genocide. Stop saying that, you anti-S. It's like, okay, what was it? Killing women and children and blowing up hospitals? They had to blow up the hospitals and the women and the children because the Hamas was hiding under them. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, like I told you guys in the beginning, if you look in the whole history of Hamas and their supposed leaders like Sinwar, you can just see that the whole, I guarantee you what runs Hamas is not, okay. They say Iran runs Hamas. Okay. Iran was overthrown by the CIA in the 50s. Okay. In the 50s, the CIA overthrew Iran. There was no memo anywhere that we ever gave it back. CIA, Mossad, Israel, US might as well all be one and the same, just extensions of the United Kingdom, the Jesuit Masonic Mafia. Hamas is no doubt what you call a controlled opposition, paid for by the people that need that boogeyman so they can do just what they did for the last 2 years. That's what it, I mean, look at the way they're all dressed up today. They're meant to look like villains. I mean, they're meant to look like the storm. I guess if stormtroopers wore all black, it's just like, come on, man. I mean, this couldn't be any more obvious. But yeah, for anyone who wants to know why it was so important, and again, a decade before it happened, I explained why when Israel turned 75, big things were going to happen. Notice Netanyahu's 75 right now as he gets the hostages back. But here's why. I used to have a great post on this. Google bought Blogspot, and they took down my post once they did. They said it was anti-S, and there was nothing anti-S about it. Let me just pull up the New York Times website. New York Times, October 6, 1940. Notice this article that I'm about to pull up was from one day before October 7th. New World Order, let me write it out here. New World Order pledge to JEWS. Let's pull it up. Right here, New York Times. New York Times, always been run by Jesuits. The other day I point out the New York Times has always been run by Jesuits, which is true. And somebody said, oh, that's so dumb. It's always been run by Jays, man. Do you know who the Jesuits are? But yeah, again, and just at this very moment, the head of the New York Times is a Jesuit-educated person. It's been par from, just like the Jesuits came over here and took over the nation and moved the nation's capital to D.C. and all that. But anyway, October 6, 1940, 10 plus 6 plus 19 plus 40 is 75. Why does it matter? New World Order, 75. Who did you see the 177 and 69? Let's just point out a few other things. Benjamin Netanyahu 177 and 69. Of course, we covered the Illuminati part, right? Remember the Jesuit order 177, 69. That's who really runs it. When Netanyahu stepped down from power, June 13th, it was the day leaving 201 days left in the year, just like they attacked Iran this year on that day. By the way, big CIA number 201. David Ben-Gurion died in history 201 days from the anniversary of Israel's establishment. By the way, State of Israel, the official title is 201. But 6975, let's write out Catholic Church, because again, the Jesuits are the military order of the Pope. They created the Illuminati. Catholic Church, 6975. Remember, the Da Vinci Code was trying to get you clued into these ideas around the time 9/11 went down. Popular book series at that time. Next thing you know is Tom Hanks making the movies about it. Roman Catholic also got the 75. The new Pope, the first American Pope, became Pope at age 69. He just turned 70 on September 14th. But, yeah. Anyway, so that's why the 75 matters. New World Order, 75. The word order alone is 75. Order out of chaos is 75. That's what they do. That was order out of chaos on October 7th. Perfect ritual, synced with Netanyahu returning. Story that doesn't make any sense. They know they can tell the world stories that don't make any sense because nobody questions anything. What do you mean? So how many people have to be in on the lie then? Like the people at the news store? Are you sure that anybody even works for news places anymore? It's like every article I read is full of 10 typos. It looks like a shitty AI wrote it. And not to mention, have you ever worked at a workplace? Because what I know about from working in workplaces, people just shut up and do their job because they want to get a check on Friday. That's what I know about working in workplaces. That's what I know about this world. Money just pretty much controls everybody. Lips stay zipped. People just shut up and do their job. You know, most people, the job they're in, they got in their career job, it's about as good as it gets. Man, if I blow it, I might have to start over and make less. I'm going to get that promotion next year. Man, I don't want to mess up my 401k. I hate listening to everybody's just stupid shit. You mean to tell me? Yeah, I do, moron. Haven't you lived? Were you born yesterday? Have you been under a rock? Last time I checked, nobody has any balls. Nobody has a spine. Everybody just does what they're told. They bow down to authority. And that's the way it is the workplace too, isn't it? Get the lowerlings together. They're all complaining. Oh, yeah, man. Then the boss comes around. Oh, nobody's saying anything. Next thing you know, they're tattletelling on their employee. Maybe if I tattletale on my best friend, I can get the promotion in 6 weeks instead of 6 months. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, by the way, here's a little 113 special down here for you. Lending Tree CEO Doug Lebda dies in ATV accident. You guys think that's what happened? You think that's is today 1013 that's up on their front page? Lending Tree. Oh, weird. Do you think it could have been some of this right here? You think it could have been some of this? Huh? What a headline for 1013. The whole story that's been a lie the whole time to justify billions more dollars of taxpayer money being wasted. Yeah, it's just, yeah. Trump constantly playing games with the market for all the insider trading, people making money on the way down, on the way up. My mom must be watching. My mom just texted me, your sister's dog is now climbing up trees. Lending Tree must spark that thought. All right, shout out to Coco. All right, guys. I'm going to leave it there for now. I think I've said enough. Thank you again to everyone who hits the like and the share. That view count is a tragedy. Tragedy. The only guy on the web who called it out day one, how this was all going to go down as soon as Netanyahu came back into power on Albert Pike's birthday. And by the way, I mean, this temporary stop in the massacre. Here, let me close out by emphasizing this point. Like I said at the beginning, today is Christopher Columbus Day, the invader. When Israel, well, when they were setting up the idea of Israel, Europeans going down there, they promised that they would not encroach on the people who already lived around that area. They wouldn't go into their territory. They would leave them alone. They were just going to stay in this new safe space where no more mustache man could hurt them. And almost overnight, that became a lie because Israel's been expanding its territory nonstop ever since. And you've seen the stuff that's gone on in the last 2 years. They've blown up a lot of places. They've bulldozed it. They've said that's now going to be Israel's territory. It's grown and expanded. Trump wants to go put a new Trump casino out there. Again, you guys, this stuff is wicked as hell. And all it takes to keep people from saying what they should is the threat of being called an anti-S. How dare you say that, you anti-S? Didn't you go to school and learn about World War II and the only people that ever mattered? It doesn't matter what happened to the Armenians or even the Native Americans here. They don't matter. The only people that matter are the people at the beginning of that book that is also supposed to be so important to your life. It's like it's amazing. It's amazing. You know, the human being is supposed to be this capable, brilliant, intelligent thing, but most people are just despicable. Anyway, I'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. And until next time.